The Congo Basin Investigation, a cryptozoologist's account. Marion and Michael Thatcher, independent cryptozoologists. Field report, Bili Ape and unknown primates of the Congo Basin. Bawele Province, Democratic Republic of Congo. April-May 2030. Prologue, Marion's account. The Democratic Republic of Congo is not Australia. That's the thought I keep returning to as our small plane approaches the airstrip at Buta. In Australia, we had infrastructure, established parks, a stable government, emergency services within reach. In the DRC, we have political instability, limited infrastructure, real dangers from human and animal sources alike, and we're hours from any significant medical facility. This is the most ambitious investigation Michael and I have ever attempted together. It's also, potentially, the most dangerous. We're heading to the Bili Forest in the northern Congo Basin, following reports of unusually large and aggressive chimpanzees, called Bili Apes, by locals and some researchers. But there are also accounts of something else. Larger primates that don't match known great apes, creatures that walk upright more often than chimps, that show unusual behaviors and physical characteristics. It could be a population of chimps with atypical behaviors. Could be a hybrid population. Or it could be something genuinely unknown. We won't know until we get there. Michael is sitting across from me in the small aircraft, reviewing maps and notes. He's been preparing for this investigation for 8 months, learning basic Lingala and French, studying Central African ecology, working with contacts in the DRC to establish permissions and partnerships. His preparation has been thorough, cautious, exactly what I would have done. He catches me watching him and smiles. You're doing that thing where you assess whether I'm taking this seriously enough. Am I that obvious? You're my twin. I can read your worried face from across a moving airplane. And yes, I'm taking this seriously. The Congo isn't the Pine Barrens or Cornwall or even the Blue Mountains. This is real wilderness with real dangers. I know that. I know you know. You're still afraid I'll revert to old Michael under pressure. The impulsive one who gets people hurt. He's right. Despite Australia, despite all the evidence of his growth, part of me is still waiting for him to slip back into old patterns when things get difficult. I trust you, I say. But this environment doesn't forgive mistakes. One bad decision out here and we're in serious trouble. Then we won't make bad decisions. We'll communicate, we'll plan carefully, we'll watch each other's backs. Like we did in Australia, but with higher stakes. The plane begins its descent toward Buta. Below us, endless green, the Congo Basin rainforest, one of the last great wildernesses on Earth. Beautiful and hostile in equal measure. Michael! Yeah. If something goes wrong out there, if one of us gets hurt or sick or in trouble, we get out. No heroics, no pushing to finish the investigation. We prioritize survival over research. Agreed. Agreed. Marion, I'm not going to get us killed for a cryptid. Not even a really cool unknown primate cryptid. Good. Because I'd like to keep both of us alive for future investigations. Future investigations. He grins. I like the sound of that. Me too. But first we have to survive this one. Prologue. Michael's account. The Democratic Republic of Congo is fucking intense. That's my first thought stepping off the plane in Buta, and it remains my dominant thought for the next hour as we navigate customs, meet our local contacts, and begin the journey toward the Bili region. Everything here feels more urgent, more precarious than anywhere we've investigated before. The heat is oppressive, the infrastructure is minimal, and there's an undercurrent of tension that reminds you that this country has seen decades of conflict and instability. But it's also incredibly alive. The sounds, the colors, the energy of people going about their lives despite all the challenges. It's humbling and inspiring at the same time. Our primary contact here is Prosper Bofeso, a Congolese biologist who's been studying chimps in the region for 15 years. He meets us in Buta with a truck, 2 local guides, and a no-nonsense attitude I immediately respect. Dr. Thatcher and Dr. Thatcher, he says, shaking our hands firmly. Welcome to the DRC. You understand the risks of what you're attempting. We do, Marion says. We're experienced field researchers, and we're here to work respectfully with local communities and follow your guidance. Good. Many foreign researchers come here with romantic ideas about jungle adventure. The reality is harsh. Disease, dangerous animals, difficult terrain, political uncertainty. If you're not prepared for that reality, tell me now. We're prepared, I say. We've done our homework. We have proper equipment and medical supplies, and we're committed to following safety protocols. Prosper studies us both, then nods. All right, we leave for Bili tomorrow morning. It's a 2-day drive, some of it on very bad roads. You'll stay in villages along the way, meet with elders who have knowledge of the creatures you're seeking. Then we go into the forest for 3 weeks. No communication with the outside world, no emergency services, just us and whatever we can carry. We understand, Marion says, and I can see she's already shifting into her careful, methodical mode. What do you know about the unknown primates in the region? I know the locals speak of them. They call them different names. Some say lion killers because they've reportedly attacked leopards. Some call them big chiefs because of their size. Most scientists think they're just large chimps with unusual behaviors. But I've seen things in the forest that don't quite match chimpanzee patterns. Like what? Ask. Tracks too large. Tree damage at heights chimps don't typically reach. Vocalizations that sound wrong. And behavior, aggression that seems calculated rather than reactive. Chimps are aggressive, yes, but what locals describe is different. More territorial. More purposeful. Marion and I exchange glances. This is exactly why we're here. The possibility that something unknown exists in these forests. Something that's been mistaken for aberrant chimp behavior but might be something else. That night, in a basic guest house in Bhutan, Marion and I review our plan one more time. 3 weeks in the forest, she says. No resupply, no communication, no evacuation if something goes wrong. Michael, are we really ready for this? Honestly, I don't know, but we're as prepared as we can be. We have good equipment, experienced guides, local knowledge. And we have each other. That has to be enough. What if it isn't? Then we adapt. We've both survived dangerous investigations before. We survived the Wendigo and the Dogman separately. Together, we're stronger. She nods, but I can see the worry in her eyes. Marion's always been the one who thinks through all the ways things can go wrong. Usually it's helpful. Right now, it's making her anxious. Hey, I say, putting a hand on her shoulder. We're going to be fine. We're smart, we're experienced, and we're not taking stupid risks. This is just a more challenging version of what we've always done. I know. I finally have you back as a partner. I don't want to lose you to some preventable disaster in the Congo. You won't. Promise. We're in this together, and we're both coming home. I hope I'm right. Day 1-2, Marion's account, the journey to Bili. The drive to the Bili region takes 2 days of brutally rough roads through dense forest and scattered villages. Our truck breaks down twice, both times requiring improvised repairs that make me grateful for Prosper's mechanical skills and the guide's resourcefulness. This is what Michael would call real adventure, and what I would call a series of near disasters. But we're making progress, and more importantly, we're using the journey to build relationships with the people whose land we'll be researching on. Our first overnight stop is in a village called Baband, where Prosper has connections with the local chief. Through Prosper's translation, Michael's French is adequate, but Lingala is beyond both of us. We explain our research and ask permission to investigate the forest regions near their territory. The chief, a man named Tito who appears to be in his 70s, listens carefully, then speaks at length. Prosper translates. He says the creatures you seek are real. His people have known of them for generations. They are dangerous, not evil, but powerful and territorial. They should be respected and avoided, not hunted or disturbed. We have no intention of hunting them, Marion assures him. We want only to observe and document, to prove they exist so they can be protected. More discussion in Lingala. Then Prosper translates. He wants to know why you care about creatures that aren't even from your country. It's a fair question. Michael answers, because the world is connected. What happens here matters everywhere. And because we believe these creatures deserve to exist without being harmed. just like the people who live alongside them. Chief Tito considers this, then nods and speaks again. Prosper smiles as he translates. He says you can investigate in the forest near his village's territory, but he warns you the creatures you seek are not like the regular chimps. They are larger, more aggressive, more intelligent. If you encounter them and they feel threatened, they will attack. His people avoid them for good reason. We'll be careful, I promise. We have experience with dangerous cryptids. That night, several village elders tell us stories of encounters with the large primates. A hunter who saw one carrying a dead leopard through the trees, demonstrating strength far beyond normal chimps. A woman who heard vocalizations in the forest that sounded almost human but weren't quite right. Children who found enormous footprints near the village, bipedal prints much larger than chimp tracks. Multiple accounts of tree breaks and ground nests that suggested something larger than typical chimps. The consistency is striking. These aren't vague monster stories. They're specific observations of behaviors and physical characteristics that don't quite match known primates. The second night, we stay in a smaller village closer to our destination. The elder here, a woman named Mama Josephine, is more direct in her warnings. The forest devils are real, she says through Prosper. They are not spirits, not magic, they are animals. But they are dangerous animals. They have killed people who went too deep into their territory. If you go looking for them, you may not come back. How recently has someone been killed? Ask. 3 years ago, a man hunting bushmeat went too far into the deep forest. He never returned. When people searched, they found his belongings scattered and signs of struggle. Something large had attacked him. Could it have been leopards? Gorillas? No leopards in that area. No gorillas this far north. It was the big chimps, the lion killers. They defended their territory. Michael and I exchange glances. This is more dangerous than we anticipated. In Australia, the Yowie was reclusive and non-aggressive. Here, we're dealing with something that has reportedly killed humans. We'll be extremely careful, I assure her. We're not going to provoke confrontation or invade their core territory. We'll observe from a distance. Mama Josephine shakes her head. In the forest, there is no safe distance. The big chimps know when you're in their territory. They watch. They decide whether to let you pass or to drive you out. You cannot control this. That night, I can't sleep. The warnings feel more serious, more immediate than any we received in previous investigations. These creatures aren't just elusive, they're actively dangerous to humans who encroach on their territory. Are we making a mistake? I ask Michael in the darkness of our shared accommodation. Maybe, but we're here now and we've done everything right. Permissions, partnerships, preparation. We'll be smart about this. We'll observe from safe distances, we won't push into core territory. We'll retreat at the first sign of aggression. And if that's not enough, then we get out and come back with a different approach. Marion, we're not committed to completing this investigation if it's genuinely unsafe. We can abort anytime. Okay, but promise me we watch each other. If one of us thinks we're pushing too hard or taking too much risk, we speak up immediately. Promise, we're partners. We protect each other. Always. Day 3, Michael's account into the forest. The forest is incredible and terrifying in equal measure. We leave the last village at dawn, hiking into primary rainforest that's barely been penetrated by humans. The canopy is so thick that the ground is in perpetual twilight. The sounds are constant. Birds, insects, things moving in the undergrowth that we can't see. Prosper and the 2 guides, Jean-Paul and Marcel, lead the way, moving with practiced ease through terrain that would be impossible for Marion and me to navigate alone. We're carrying everything we need for 3 weeks. Tents, food, water purification equipment, medical supplies, and all our research gear. The weight is brutal, especially in the heat and humidity. By midday, we're all soaked with sweat, moving slowly to conserve energy. Around 3 p.m., we find our first evidence, a ground nest. It's enormous, approximately 6 feet in diameter, made of broken branches and leaves, positioned on the ground rather than in a tree. Chimps make nests, but typically in trees and much smaller. This is something else. Marion photographs it from multiple angles while I examine the structure. The branches are thick, broken rather than bent, suggesting significant strength. The nest is relatively fresh, maybe a day or two old. This is consistent with the Bili Ape reports, Prosper says. Large chimps that sometimes nest on the ground rather than in trees. Unusual behavior, but documented. Or something larger than chimps, Marion suggests. Something that's too heavy to nest comfortably in trees. We collect samples of the nesting material and document the location on GPS. Then we move on, following Prosper's guidance deeper into the forest. By late afternoon, we reach a suitable campsite, a slightly elevated area near a stream, with good visibility and escape routes. We establish camp quickly, stringing up our supplies to prevent them from being taken by animals, setting up tents, preparing for our first night in the deep forest. As darkness falls, the forest comes alive with sounds. Most I can identify: insects, frogs, distant chimp calls, but there are others that I can't place. Deep hoots that sound almost human, crashing sounds in the canopy, things moving in the darkness just beyond our firelight. Welcome to the Congo, Prosper says with dark humor. You wanted adventure, yes? Maybe slightly less adventure than this, Marion mutters, but she's smiling despite the tension. That night, we maintain watch in shifts. Marion and I take the second shift together, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., sitting by the fire while the guides sleep. Michael, are you scared? Marion asks quietly. Terrified. You? Same. But good scared? Like we're doing something that matters, even if it's dangerous. Yeah, exactly that. This is what cryptozoology is supposed to be. Facing real unknowns in challenging conditions, pushing past comfort zones to document something potentially significant. As long as we both survive to write the report, we will. I'm not losing you to the Congo, and you're not losing me. We made a promise to each other. We're in this together. That means we come out together. Around 3:30 a.m., we hear something large moving through the forest. Not close, maybe 100 yards away, but definitely large. Tree branches breaking, heavy footfalls, and then a vocalization that makes my blood run cold. It's a scream, high-pitched, almost human, but with an intensity and volume that no human could produce. It echoes through the forest, and I swear every other sound stops. Just that scream, cutting through the darkness, declaring territory or warning or rage. I can't tell. Marion grips my arm. That's them. That's the Bili Apes. The scream comes again, slightly closer. Then others answer from different directions. We're surrounded by them, by multiple individuals calling to each other in the darkness. Should we wake the others? Marion whispers. No, they know we're here. They're just letting us know they know. If they wanted to attack, they would have. This is a warning. The screaming continues for maybe 10 minutes, then gradually fades. The normal forest sounds slowly return. Whatever was out there has moved on, satisfied with its warning. Marion and I sit by the fire until dawn, neither of us willing to sleep after that. When Prosper wakes for his shift, he takes one look at our faces and nods. You heard them. Good. Now you understand what we're dealing with. The lion killers are real, they are large, and they are not friendly. Remember that. I remember. Trust me, I remember. Day 46. Marion's account. First contact. We spend the next 3 days establishing observation posts and documenting signs of the Bili Apes. The evidence accumulates. Multiple ground nests, all large and recently used. Tracks in mud near streams. Bipedal prints measuring up to 14 inches long. Tree damage at heights of 8 to 10 feet, with branches broken or stripped. Fecal samples showing a diet of fruits, nuts, and meat, including what Prosper identifies as leopard hair. Vocalizations recorded at night, screams, hoots, and drumming sounds. The creatures are clearly active in this area, and they're clearly aware of our presence. We see nothing directly, but we find fresh signs daily, and we hear them constantly at night. On day 6, we get our first clear sighting. Michael and I are conducting a survey along a stream when Jean-Paul, who's scouting ahead, freezes and signals us to stop. He points silently toward a clearing about 50 yards downstream. Through our binoculars, we see it. A large primate feeding on fruit in a tree at the edge of the clearing. Even at distance, the size is striking, significantly larger than any chimpanzee, with a robust build and dark fur. As we watch, it drops from the tree, easily a 12-foot drop, and walks across the clearing. This walking upright, not knuckle-walking like typical chimps, but fully bipedal, with a confident gait that suggests this is normal locomotion, not just occasional bipedalism. Michael is filming, Marion is taking still photographs, and I'm recording field notes at a frantic pace. The creature reaches the far side of the clearing and pauses, turning to look directly at our position. I feel exposed despite the distance and vegetation. Those eyes, even through binoculars, show intelligence and assessment. It's evaluating us, deciding if we're a threat. Then it screams. That same high-pitched, powerful vocalization we heard on our first night. Not directed at us specifically, it's calling to others, alerting them to our presence. 2 more individuals emerge from the forest and join the first. One is similar in size, the other slightly smaller, possibly a juvenile. They stand together, all 3 upright, all 3 watching our position. "We should go," Jean-Paul whispers. "They're deciding whether to attack or let us pass. If we stay, they may attack." Just a few more photos. Michael starts, but I cut him off. "We go. Now." Jean-Paul's right, we're in their territory, they're agitated, and there are 3 of them. We leave before this escalates. Michael looks like he wants to argue, but he nods and starts backing away slowly. We retreat carefully, not turning our backs, not running, just putting distance between us and the creatures. They watch us go but don't follow. When we're about 100 yards away, they turn and disappear back into the forest. That night, reviewing the footage and photos, I'm struck by how extraordinary our sighting was. The creatures are clearly not typical chimpanzees. The size, the bipedalism, the coordinated behavior all suggest something else. Possibly a unique population of chimps with unusual adaptations, possibly something genuinely unknown. "These are significant animals," Prosper says, examining our documentation. "Large, intelligent, territorial. Whether they're a subspecies of chimp or something else, they deserve protection and further study." "Agreed," Marion says, "but we need to be more careful. Today was controlled, but we got lucky. If they'd decided we were a threat, we could have been in serious trouble." She's right. The creatures are magnificent but dangerous. We're not just documenting passive, reclusive animals. We're in territory shared with apex predators that have reportedly killed humans. We need to adjust our approach accordingly. Day 7-9, Michael's account, the argument. Day 7 starts with a disagreement that's been brewing since the sighting 2 days ago. Marion wants to establish a single observation post at a safe distance and wait for the creatures to come to us. Patient, methodical observation from a protected position. I want to follow the creatures' trails, tracking their movements through the forest, getting closer looks at how they behave in different contexts. We're sitting in our tent before dawn, and I can tell this is going to escalate into a real argument, our first since reuniting as partners. Michael, tracking them through dense forest is dangerous. We don't know their patterns well enough, we don't know how they'll react to being followed. And if something goes wrong, we're miles from any help. And sitting in one spot waiting might yield nothing. These creatures are wide-ranging. They could avoid our observation post entirely. We need to be mobile to follow them, to understand their territory and behavior patterns. At what risk? You saw how they reacted when they noticed us. 3 adults, agitated, screaming warnings. If we actively follow them and they decide we're pursuing them, they could attack. So we're just going to sit here and hope they wander past our cameras? That's not investigation, Marion. That's waiting and hoping. It's systematic observation, which is how you build reliable data rather than exciting anecdotes. We're both getting heated, voices rising. Prosper, Jean-Paul, and Marcel are outside the tent, diplomatically giving us privacy but definitely able to hear the argument. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," Marion says, and I can hear the frustration and worry in her voice. "We get into a challenging situation, and you want to take unnecessary risks because patient observation isn't exciting enough for you. That stings because it's not entirely unfair. That's not what this is about. This is about maximizing the value of our time here. 3 weeks in the Congo isn't enough to just sit and wait. We need to be active. We need to be alive, Michael. We need to do this work without getting hurt or killed. Your need for action over patience is exactly the pattern that destroyed our partnership the first time. And your excessive caution is exactly why you missed opportunities in your solo investigations. The Dogman could have been documented more thoroughly if you'd been willing to take calculated risks. Silence. I've gone too far, and I know it immediately. The Dogman nearly killed me, Marion says quietly. I was hunted, Michael. Actually hunted by something that wanted me dead. My excessive caution kept me alive. So excuse me if I'm not eager to recreate that experience in the Congo with creatures that have actually killed people. Shit, I forgot or didn't fully process how traumatic the Dogman investigation was for her. She doesn't talk about it much, but I know she still has nightmares. Marion, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant it. You think I'm too cautious, too risk-averse. And maybe I am. But I'd rather be too cautious and alive than bold and dead. She leaves the tent, and I sit there feeling like an asshole. Because she's right. I pushed too hard, dismissed her very real concerns, and brought up her trauma to win an argument. Outside, I can hear her talking with Prosper in French. I can't make out all the words, but I get the gist. She's asking his opinion about observation strategies, actually consulting someone instead of just asserting her position. That's what I should have done. Asked Prosper, who has 15 years of experience in this forest, what approach makes sense given the conditions and the creature's behavior. I emerge from the tent. Prosper, can I ask your professional opinion? He looks between Marion and me, clearly aware he's being dragged into a sibling disagreement. About observation strategy? Yeah. Marion wants to establish a fixed observation post. I want to track the creatures more actively. What makes sense in this environment with these animals? Prosper considers carefully. Both approaches have merit. Fixed observation is safer and allows for detailed behavioral documentation when creatures are present. Active tracking provides more data about range and behavior patterns, but carries more risk of dangerous encounters. So compromise, Marion says. We establish a primary observation post for daily monitoring. But we also do limited, careful tracking with full team support. Not solo, not pushing into core territory, but following at safe distances to map their range. There's a reasonable middle ground. I should have suggested it myself instead of arguing. That works, I say. Marion, I'm sorry for pushing. And I'm really sorry for bringing up the Dogman. That was shitty. It was. But you're right that I'm probably overcorrecting toward caution because of that experience. I need to find the balance between safety and effective investigation. And I need to find the balance between boldness and recklessness. We'll figure it out together. Prosper nods approvingly. Good. Partnership requires compromise. Now, let's implement this strategy before we lose more daylight arguing. Day 1012. Marion's account. The system. The compromise works better than either individual approach would have. We establish an observation post overlooking a fruiting tree that the creatures use regularly, and we're rewarded with multiple sightings over the next 3 days. We document 5 different individuals, 2 large adults, 1 male, 1 possibly female, 2 subadults, and 1 juvenile. They demonstrate remarkable behaviors. Bipedal walking as common as knuckle walking, suggesting routine use of upright locomotion. Tool use including stick tools for extracting insects and stone tools for cracking nuts. Complex vocalizations including what sounds like proto-language. Different calls for different situations, used consistently by multiple individuals. Social structure showing clear hierarchy and cooperative behaviors. We also conduct 2 tracking expeditions, following at a safe distance to map their territory. The range is extensive, at least 10 square kilometers based on our observations, possibly larger. They move between preferred feeding sites, water sources, and sleeping areas with routes that suggest long-term knowledge of the forest. On day 12, we get our most significant observation: tool-assisted hunting. We're at our observation post when three of the creatures approach the clearing. One of the adults is carrying something, a thick branch, maybe 4 feet long, stripped of smaller branches. It's clearly deliberately selected and prepared. The creatures position themselves around the base of a large tree. Then, working together, they use the branch as a lever, prying at the base of the tree where they've apparently identified a hidden animal, possibly a tree pangolin or small antelope. When the animal emerges, they attack with coordinated precision. One creature blocks the escape route, another strikes with the branch, the third pursues. Within seconds, they've killed the prey and are sharing it. That's sophisticated tool use, Michael whispers, filming the entire sequence. That's not just picking up a convenient stick. That's crafted tool use with planning and coordination. And cooperative hunting with assigned roles. I add, that's cognitively advanced behavior. Chimps hunt cooperatively, but this was more structured, more purposeful. Prosper is watching with visible fascination. I've studied chimps for 15 years, and I've never seen behavior quite like this. These creatures are extraordinary. That night, reviewing the footage, we're all buzzing with excitement. We've documented behaviors that suggest these creatures, whether they're an unknown species or a unique chimpanzee population, deserve immediate protection and serious study. We need to get this to the scientific community, Michael says. This is too significant to keep private. Agreed, but carefully, I caution. We need to present it in a way that emphasizes conservation and protection, not sensationalization. I know. I learned that lesson the hard way. Remember? We do this right. Peer-reviewed publication, collaboration with Congolese wildlife authorities, emphasis on habitat protection. It's moments like this that remind me why the partnership works. Michael brings the enthusiasm and bold observation. I bring the systematic analysis and caution. Together, we're documenting something neither of us could achieve alone. We're finally operating as true equals, true partners. Day 13, Michael's account when things go wrong. Day 13 is when everything goes to shit. We're on a tracking expedition, Marion, me, Jean-Paul, and Marcel. Prosper stayed at base camp to organize equipment and prepare for our eventual extraction. We're following a clear trail of the creatures, moving carefully, maintaining distance, doing everything right. Then Marcel steps on a snake. It happens fast. He's walking slightly ahead, pushes through some undergrowth, and suddenly he's shouting. A black snake. Jean-Paul later identifies it as a forest cobra. Strikes his calf before disappearing into the vegetation. Marion and I respond immediately. She has the medical kit, I have communication. We get Marcel sitting, try to keep him calm. Examine the bite. 2 clear fang marks already swelling. Forest cobra venom is neurotoxic and cytotoxic. Without antivenin, which we don't have, this is potentially fatal. We need to get him to medical care, Marion says, her voice steady despite the crisis. Jean-Paul, how far to the nearest clinic? 2 days by foot to the village, then another half day by truck to a clinic with antivenin. Maybe 3 days total. 3 days. Marcel might not have 3 days. Marion is already working, cleaning the wound, immobilizing his leg, administering pain medication. She's calm, focused, exactly what you want in a medical emergency. But I can see the calculation in her eyes. This is very bad. Michael, we need to call for extraction, she says. We're 30 kilometers from the nearest road. Helicopter is the only option, and I don't know if we can even get one out here. Try. Use the satellite phone. Call Prosper, have him coordinate. This is life or death. I grab the sat phone and move to higher ground for better signal. It takes 20 minutes to get through to Prosper, explain the situation, and get him working on emergency extraction. He'll contact authorities, see if medical evacuation is possible, but he's not optimistic. Maybe 12 to 24 hours for a helicopter if they can get one, he tells me. The area is remote, the political situation is unstable, medical flights are rare. Do what you can to stabilize him. I'll push for fastest possible response. I return to the group with the bad news. Marion's still working on Marcel, who's now showing early signs of envenomation. Increased swelling, some numbness spreading from the bite site, difficulty breathing. We have two options, Marion says, her voice steady but urgent. We wait here for possible helicopter extraction, or we start hiking toward the village immediately and hope we can cover enough ground before he decompensates completely. Your call, I say. You're the one with medical training. She hesitates, clearly torn. Waiting might mean the helicopter arrives too late. Moving might exhaust Marcel and worsen his condition. There's no good choice. We hike, she decides. Slowly, with frequent rests. If the helicopter comes, great. If not, we at least make progress toward care. Jean-Paul, can you navigate us out? Yes, but it will be slow with an injured man. Slow is better than stationary. Let's move. We fashion a makeshift stretcher from our emergency supplies and begin the agonizing journey back toward the village. Marcel is lucid but clearly in pain, his breathing labored, his legs swelling grotesquely. Marion walks beside him constantly, monitoring his condition, administering what limited medication we have, keeping him calm. I navigate and help carry the stretcher with Jean-Paul. This brutal, exhausting work in the heat and humidity. After 4 hours, we've covered maybe 5 kilometers. Marcel's condition is worsening. More numbness, some muscle paralysis starting, respiratory distress increasing. We're losing him. Marion, I say quietly, is he going to make it? I don't know. Without antivenin, forest cobra bites have high mortality. We're doing everything we can, but it might not be enough. This is what I was afraid of. Not the investigation itself, but this real consequences, real danger, someone potentially dying because we brought them into a hazardous environment. This is my fault, I say. I pushed for active tracking. If we'd stayed at the observation post. Don't. This isn't on you, Michael. Snake bites happen in the forest. This is bad luck, not bad judgment. Focus on getting Marcel to care, not on blame. But I can't help feeling responsible. We're here because of our investigation, our desire to document these creatures. And now someone might die because of it. Day 14, Marion's account, the helicopter. The helicopter arrives at dawn on day 14, after we've spent a nightmare night in the forest with Marcel's condition continuing to deteriorate. We hear it before we see it, the distinctive thump of rotors cutting through the morning air. Jean-Paul has managed to find a clearing large enough for landing. We signal with our emergency beacon and the helicopter. A medical evacuation bird operated by an NGO touches down in a storm of leaves and displaced air. The medical team takes over immediately, starting 4 lines, administering antivenin, stabilizing Marcel for transport. Within 15 minutes, he's loaded and they're lifting off, headed for a hospital in Kisangani. Michael and I stand in the clearing, exhausted and shell-shocked, watching the helicopter disappear. He's going to make it, right? Michael asks. I think so. He got antivenin within 24 hours. That's better odds than many snakebite victims get out here. But it was close. Really close. We hike back to base camp in silence, both processing how quickly things went from controlled investigation to medical crisis. Jean-Paul walks with us, quiet and shaken. Marcel is his cousin, and I can see the guilt and fear in his expression. When we reach camp, Prosper is waiting with news. The hospital called. Marcel is stable. The antivenin is working. They expect full recovery within a week. The relief is overwhelming. Michael actually sits down hard on the ground, hands over his face. Jean-Paul starts crying quietly. I feel my own control crack slightly, allowing myself to feel the fear I've been suppressing for the last 24 hours. He's okay, Michael says. He's actually okay. He is, Prosper confirms. But this incident raises questions. Do you want to continue the investigation or end it here? Michael and I look at each other. We've been out here 13 days, collected remarkable data, documented something potentially unprecedented. But we've also been reminded how quickly the Congo can turn deadly. We need to discuss it, I say. Give us an hour? Prosper nods and moves away to give us privacy. Michael and I sit by the fire, not speaking for several minutes. Finally, Michael says, Tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking this was a warning. We got lucky. Marcel got bitten in a location where extraction was possible, the helicopter came in time, the antivenom worked. If any of those factors had been different, he'd be dead. And if it had been one of us, we'd be in the same situation. I know. He's quiet for a moment. Part of me wants to say we should finish what we started. We're here, we have the data collection underway, the creatures are active in this area. But part of me, the part that remembers Point Pleasant and the Mothman, knows that pushing forward despite clear warnings is how disasters happen. What does your gut say? My gut says we've already documented something significant. The footage from day 12 alone, the coordinated tool use, the sophisticated hunting, that's groundbreaking. We don't need to push for more at the cost of safety. We have enough. I'm surprised. The old Michael would have insisted on continuing, on maximizing every moment in the field. The new Michael is prioritizing safety and recognizing when enough is enough. I agree, I say. We've accomplished what we came for. We've documented unusual primate behavior, collected physical evidence, recorded sophisticated tool use. Continuing now, with the team shaken and one member evacuated, would be pushing our luck. So we extract early? We extract early. We've got 13 days of data. That's enough to make a compelling case for further research and protection. And we both go home alive, which was always the primary goal. Michael nods. Okay, let's tell Prosper. When we inform him of our decision, Prosper looks relieved. I think that's wise. The forest has given you a warning. You'd be foolish to ignore it. We can be back to the village in 2 days, then arrange transport to Bhuta and flights home. That night, our last in the deep forest, Michael and I sit by the fire talking about what we've learned. We did good work here, Michael says. Not perfect, but good. We documented something remarkable. We worked well together despite our disagreement. And we made the right call about when to stop. We did. And more importantly, we both survived to write the report. That's not always guaranteed in this work. Marion, I need to say something. When Marcel got bitten, when I thought we might lose him, I realized how cavalier I've been about safety in past investigations. How many times I've put myself and others at risk because I was chasing the perfect shot or the definitive proof. This could have been me, or you, and that would have been on me for pushing us into dangerous situations. Michael, let me finish. I know I'm better than I was. I know I've grown, but this investigation showed me I still have work to do. When we argued about observation strategy, my first instinct was to push for the riskier option. I'm glad you stood your ground and insisted on compromise. That probably saved us from being in an even worse situation when Marcel got bitten. You're being too hard on yourself. We both took calculated risks here. The snake bite was bad luck, not bad judgment. Maybe, but I need to keep working on prioritizing safety over ambition. I need you to keep calling me out when I'm slipping into old patterns. That's what partnership means. Keeping each other accountable. I will. And you need to call me out when I'm being overcautious to the point of ineffectiveness. Partnership works both ways. Deal. We sit in comfortable silence, listening to the forest sounds. Somewhere out there, the Bili Apes are going about their lives, hunting, socializing, using tools, demonstrating cognitive sophistication that science has barely begun to document. We came here to prove they exist. We're leaving having documented something more significant than mere existence. We've shown that these creatures are capable of complex, coordinated behaviors that challenge our understanding of primate cognition. That's worth the fear, the exhaustion, the close call with Marcel. But I'm also glad we're leaving before something worse happens. Some investigations require pushing to the limit. Some require knowing when to stop. This was the latter. Day 1517, Michael's account, the journey out. The hike back to the village takes 2 days, and it feels different from the hike in. We're not full of anticipation and nervous energy anymore. We're tired, sobered by Marcel's snakebite, processing what we've documented and what we've risked. But we're also satisfied. We did the work right. We collected remarkable data. We made tough decisions about when to push and when to pull back. And we did it together as true partners. The villagers in Baband welcome us warmly. Chief Tito asks about our investigation, and through Prosper we explain what we documented: the sophisticated tool use, the coordinated hunting, the cognitive complexity. He listens, then says something that Prosper translates. We have always known the big chimps were intelligent. It's good that outsiders are finally seeing what we have seen for generations. But seeing is not enough. You must protect them, protect their forest. Otherwise, knowing becomes just another way of destroying. We will, Marion promises, we'll work to ensure this region receives protection, that the creatures and the people who live alongside them both benefit from conservation efforts. Chief Tito nods approvingly. Good. The forest and its creatures belong to all of us. Protecting them protects our grandchildren's future. That night, Marion and I review all our documentation one more time. Hours of video, thousands of photographs, detailed field notes, biological samples. The evidence is compelling. These creatures, whether they're an unknown species or a unique chimpanzee population, deserve immediate scientific attention and conservation priority. When we get home, Marion says, we write this up properly, full documentation, submitted to peer-reviewed journals, shared with conservation organizations and Congolese wildlife authorities. We do this right. Agreed. No shortcuts, no sensationalism, just solid science focused on protection. Michael, I'm proud of us. For how we handled this investigation, for how we worked together, for prioritizing safety when it mattered. This felt like real partnership. The kind we should have had 7 years ago. We weren't ready 7 years ago. We needed those years apart, learning our own lessons, becoming who we needed to be. Now we're ready. Are we? Ready for long-term partnership, I mean? Not just one-off investigations, but sustained collaboration. I think so. This trip tested us. Difficult conditions, dangerous situations, high-stakes decisions. And we handled it. We argued once and worked it out. We faced a medical crisis and made good calls. We knew when to push and when to stop. That's mature partnership. Then let's make it official. Not just Marion and Michael sometimes work together. The Thatcher twins, research partners, investigating cryptids as a team. What do you think? I think that's perfect. I think that's what we were always meant to be, once we figured out how to do it right. We shake hands on it, then laugh at the formality and hug instead. We're 36 years old, scarred by childhood trauma and 7 years of estrangement. But we've finally found our way back to each other. The Congo tested us and we passed. Not perfectly, we made mistakes, had conflicts, faced dangers we barely escaped. But we survived, we documented something remarkable, and we did it together. That's enough. That's everything. Day 18, Marion's account departure. We fly out of Buta on a clear morning, the Congo Basin stretching endlessly below us as we gain altitude. From up here, you can see why this place has remained one of Earth's last great wildernesses. It's vast, dense, seemingly impenetrable. Somewhere down there, in the deep forest we just left, the Bili Apes are going about their lives. Hunting with tools, communicating with sophisticated vocalizations, demonstrating cognitive abilities that blur the line between animal and something more. We documented them. We didn't capture them, didn't disturb their core territory, didn't exploit them for personal gain. We documented them carefully and we're leaving them in peace. That's how it should be done. That's what cryptozoology should always be. Michael is asleep beside me on the plane, exhausted from the expedition. I watch him sleep and think about how far we've both come. 7 years ago, we couldn't work together for a week without destroying something irreplaceable. Now we've just spent 18 days in one of the most challenging environments on Earth and emerged as stronger partners. The childhood trauma that drove us into this field. That night in the Adirondacks, the yellow-green eyes, Uncle Dave's screaming. We've finally processed it together instead of separately. We've learned that we're stronger together than apart, that our different approaches complement rather than conflict when we're willing to communicate and compromise. I think about the investigations ahead. More cryptids to document, more mysteries to explore, more challenges to face. But now we'll face them together, as the team we should have been from the start. My phone has messages waiting as we get into range of cell towers, colleagues asking about the investigation, organizations interested in our findings, media requests for interviews. The work of translating field documentation into scientific papers and conservation advocacy is just beginning. But that's future Marian's problem. Right now, I'm just grateful we're both alive, both healthy, both heading home with remarkable documentation and a partnership that finally works. The Congo tested us. We passed. Whatever comes next, we're ready. Epilogue, joint account 6 months later. Marian. It's October 2030, 6 months after returning from the Congo. The scientific papers have been published, the conservation organizations are engaged, and the response has been remarkable. The Bili Ape population is now officially recognized as a priority for protection, and the Congolese government has established additional safeguards for the forest region. Michael. We've received invitations to present our findings at conferences, requests for interviews, and proposals for follow-up research. But we've been selective about what we accept, always prioritizing what serves the creature's welfare over what serves our careers. Marian. That's growth. That's both of us understanding that fame and recognition are secondary to actually protecting what we've documented. Michael, we visited Marcel last month. He's fully recovered from the snakebite, back to guiding work, and incredibly gracious about the whole ordeal. He said the investigation was worth the risk, that documenting the big chimps matters for their long-term survival. That was generous of him, considering we nearly got him killed. Marian. We've also been approached about a documentary. A film crew wants to follow us on our next investigation. We declined. Not because we're opposed to all publicity, but because we don't want camera crews influencing how we work or how the creatures behave. Michael. The old me would have jumped at the chance for a documentary. The new me understands that some work is better done quietly. Maybe someday, when we're older and have decades of documentation behind us, we'll consider it. But not now. Marian. We're planning our next investigation for spring 2031. Nothing as challenging as the Congo. We want something that tests our partnership without threatening our survival. We're thinking the Almas of Central Asia, reported in Mongolia and surrounding regions. Michael. Humanoid cryptid, mountainous terrain, fascinating cultural context with Mongolian and Tibetan folklore. It's perfect for showcasing both our strengths, Marian's cultural sensitivity and systematic approach, my fieldwork and physical capabilities. Marian, we're also writing a book. Not a sensational "we found monsters" book, but a serious examination of cryptozoology as a conservation discipline. How to investigate unknown species ethically, how to balance documentation with protection, how to work respectfully with indigenous communities. Michael. It's the book Marian would have written alone if I hadn't screwed up 7 years ago. Now we're writing it together, and it's better for having both perspectives, the cautious and the bold, the protective and the curious. Marian. Uncle Dave called us last week. First time in months. He wanted to know about the Congo, about how we work together, about whether we'd finally figured out how to be partners without destroying each other. Michael, I told him we had, that the investigation tested us and we passed, that we're planning a long-term partnership, not just occasional collaborations. He said he was proud of us, that we'd turned childhood trauma into something meaningful. Marian. He also said something I've been thinking about ever since. That night in the Adirondacks broke you both. But maybe it needed to break you before you could heal properly. Maybe you needed to be separate for a while to understand how to be together. Michael, he's right. We couldn't have sustained partnership 7 years ago. We were too raw, too reactive, too locked into opposing responses to the same trauma. We needed time apart to learn our individual lessons before we could combine them. Marian, now we have. We've learned that protection matters more than proof, that patience and boldness both have their place, that partnership requires communication and compromise. Michael, we've learned that some mysteries are meant to be solved together, that twins who share trauma can either let it divide them or use it as the foundation for something stronger. Marian. The Bili Apes are still in the Congo, still thriving, still demonstrating remarkable cognitive abilities. Because we documented them carefully and advocated for their protection, they have a better chance of long-term survival. Michael. The Mothman is gone, driven away by my ego and need for recognition. That's a lesson I'll carry forever. A reminder of what happens when I prioritize fame over responsibility. Marion. But the Yowie still lives in the Blue Mountains. The Jersey Devil still haunts the Pine Barrens. The Owlman still watches from the Mawnan church woods. Because Michael learned from his mistakes and chose protection over proof. Michael, because Marion taught me that some truths don't need to be shouted to be valuable. That quiet protection is stronger than loud revelation. Marion, because we finally figured out that we're better together than apart. That our differences complement rather than conflict when we approach them as strengths instead of weaknesses. Michael, the Congo was supposed to be a test. Turned out to be graduation. We're not just rebuilding a partnership, we're building something better than we ever had before. Marion. Something that honors both the creatures we study and the trauma that drove us to study them. Something that acknowledges childhood fear while transforming it into adult purpose. Michael. Something that makes 12-year-old Marion and Michael, standing outside that tent, seeing yellow-green eyes in the darkness, making promises they didn't know how to keep, proud of who we became. Together, we're the Thatcher twins, cryptozoologists, partners, siblings who survived trauma by turning it into purpose, who lost each other for 7 years and found our way back stronger. The creatures are still out there, in forests and swamps and mountains across the world, living their hidden lives, deserving of respect and protection. We're still out here too, documenting them carefully, protecting them fiercely, working together as we always should have. That night in the Adirondacks started everything. The fear, the obsession, the career, the split, the long road back. We can't change that night, but we can honor it by doing the work right. By protecting mysteries instead of exploiting them. By working together instead of apart. By remembering that some creatures survive precisely because they remain hidden. The Congo tested us. Mongolia will challenge us. Whatever comes after will push us further. But we're ready. We're finally truly ready. Because some partnerships are worth fighting for. Some siblings are worth forgiving. Some mysteries are worth protecting. And some truths, the most important truths, aren't meant to be proven. They're meant to be witnessed, honored, and kept safe. That's what we do now. That's who we've become. The Thatcher twins, reunited and ready for whatever mysteries await. Together, always together now, the way it was always meant to be. Dr. Marion Thatcher and Michael Thatcher, independent cryptozoologists, research partners. October 2030. The Congo Basin holds secrets. Large primates demonstrating tool use and cognitive sophistication that challenges our understanding of animal intelligence. We documented them carefully and protected them fiercely. That's not just good cryptozoology, that's what partnership means. We spent 7 years learning separately what we needed to know to work together. Now we know. The creatures survive because we chose protection over proof. Our partnership survives because we chose communication over ego. Some lessons take decades to learn. Some partnerships take trauma and separation and painful rebuilding. But when you finally get it right, when you finally understand what matters, everything that came before becomes worth it. The Congo tested us. We passed. Together. Postscript. December 2030. Marion. We received word last week that Marcel has been hired as a full-time guide and research assistant by Prosper's Conservation Organization. He's using his experience from our investigation to help other researchers work safely in the Congo Basin. He sent us a message. Thank you for the opportunity. The snakebite was worth it. Michael, we also heard from Tommy Nguyen in Australia. The Yowie is still being seen occasionally in the Blue Mountains, still thriving in the protected areas we helped establish. The Gundungra community has developed ecotourism protocols that allow people to visit the area respectfully without disturbing the creatures. Marion, that's what success looks like in cryptozoology. Not viral videos or fame, but actual conservation outcomes. Creatures surviving, communities benefiting, ecosystems protected. Michael, we're finalizing plans for Mongolia. Spring 2031, 3 months in the Altai Mountains, working with local researchers and herders to document the Almas. It'll be cold, challenging, high altitude, completely different from the Congo. Marion, but we'll face it the same way we faced the Congo. Together, with communication and compromise, prioritizing safety and conservation over ambition and proof. Michael, the Thatcher twins, back in action. Older, wiser, scarred by experience but stronger for it. Marion. Some siblings grow apart as adults. Some maintain polite distance. Some never recover from childhood hurts. Michael. We grew apart, found our way back, and built something better than we had before. That's rare. That's worth celebrating. Marion. Uncle Dave is coming to visit next month. First time in years. He wants to hear all our stories, see all our documentation, understand what we've accomplished. Michael, I think he's proud. Not just of the research, but of the fact that we survived childhood trauma without letting it destroy us. That we turned fear into purpose. That we found each other again after years of hurt. Marion, we did that. Not perfectly, not easily, but we did it. And now we get to keep doing it. Investigating mysteries, protecting creatures, working as partners. Michael, for the rest of our lives, if we're lucky. The Thatcher twins, documenting the unknown, protecting the hidden, proving that some partnerships are worth fighting for. Together, whatever comes next, Mongolia or beyond, we're ready. Because we learned the hardest lesson of all. That partnership isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to try, to fail, to learn, and to try again. Together. Always together now. End of report. The Congo Basin still holds its secrets. The Bili Apes still thrive. And the Thatcher twins continue their work. Documenting carefully, protecting fiercely, working together as they always should have. Some stories don't end. They just keep going, deeper into the unknown, with partners who finally learned how to face the darkness together.